What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here and welcome to a new album review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the latest album from one of my favourite metal bands, Amon Amarth, entitled The Great Heathen Army. Now the Great Heathen Army is their latest album to be released in their discography after the release of their album Berserker in 2019, and this has been one of the most talked about, beloved and praised bands in the genre of melodic death metal. And I did see them live once. I thought they were fantastic, and I have been a fan of these guys around since more than 10 years to this point, and I find that their originality was absolutely strong onto some of their brilliant earlier albums and released classic albums like With Odin on Our Side and especially Twilight of the Thunder God, which two of those albums are one of my favourites of all time. And I actually did review an Amon Amarth album previously, which was the release of Deceiver of the Gods back in 2013. So I was really interested to hear what Amon Amarth can really do to have their own newer spin of direction and to hear what they are always very capable of, because they have made a discography that I thought was really, really good and with a big, strong presence of sound and presentation. But I think that the more I listen to this album, there's just so many things that I thought was just totally missing about this album, because I find that the earlier Amon Amarth albums, they were so out there, and even their really interesting lyrics onto various things like battles to Vikings, various imageries into mythology, and Amon Amarth are still doing that to this day. What I think about this album is that there is nothing but somewhat an inconsistent flavour of something that just doesn't match and suit to my taste into what this current direction of the band has been doing. There are some tracks onto the last album, Berserker, that I've mentioned a few minutes ago, that they were there, but there was something not as defining or really as admirable, and that is currently what I feel for the second time onto this record. Feel so directionless, flat, and just complete mediocrity, especially like onto the first few tracks, like Get in the Ring to The Great Heathen Army, mid-paced, slower songs that you hear on this record. They really do try their best, because I thought that there were some decent riffs, absolutely amazing tones on the distorting, growling vocals, and Amon Amarth has been a powerful sounding band of doing these achievable things that were so successful in the earlier albums. But when you think about it, I, in my opinion, will have to say that the songwriting on this album is just one of the weakest moments. Feel at points disconnected, that I wanted to like them and to dive in with this amount of stuff that has been all here for more than 40 minutes of this whole album's runtime. No strong aspects to think that that is one of the most memorable parts or some of the best tracks that the band has written in a long time. Songs on this record that I actually did enjoy quite a bit, like Odin Owns You All, to Saxons and Vikings, which does feature the vocalist of Saxon, and I really think that some of the later tracks in the second half to be the strongest halfway point across this album, because there were some of these other riffs, stunning rhythmic drumming, that they bring in a lot of the action that they have always been capable of doing, and they can do no wrong of them being amazing musicians. There's not enough power and oomph to really digest things in just an immediate wow factor of any type of positive reaction. The performances onto these tracks, the band have been sounding really tight, And like I said about the vocals, they were fantastic as well. And even on the softer approaches in finding some parts to be really melodic and finding various imageries into what these lyrics are about, where they could have delivered something that I really wanted to appreciate, which I respect the band for doing this type of thing. But in terms of the whole record, along with Berserker, this is one of the most painfully dull and sometimes mundanely repetitive albums, and that is painful for me to address these things because the band Amon Amarth have made such a great achievement in sounding phenomenal. They were stylistic, they were punishing, and they can bring a lot of groove and texture into their signature sound. But the Great Heathen Army does not really fulfill absolutely enough to really regard as one of the greater albums, and this is one that I would personally address as one of the biggest disappointments of the year so far. At least the production is really strong on this record. The drums to the guitars, full, rich sound of the band. They are one of the best produced sounding metal bands, not only into the genre, but of metal, period. But really, as a whole, the Great Heathen Army by Amon Amarth was not all in it for me. They have not made a really strong album, or just even a great album, since Soto Rising and even Deceiver of the Gods. That's personally all I would like to say about the Great Heathen Army by Amon Amarth. And let me know what you guys think of this record in the comments down below. You may think differently about your views on this album, but do you agree if you think the other side of opinions? I just want to say what you guys want to say about one of the most anticipated albums from one of the best Swedish metal bands. I'm going to give the Great Heathen Army by Amon Amarth, I will have to say, a 5.5 out of 10. Brutally honest, as I can really say and address about my things and views about this album. And some fans may think differently, which is totally fine. And I will have to see if there are other fans that do love this album. And if they do, that is brilliant to hear. But this is nowhere near one of the strongest albums from Amon Amarth as a whole so far. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.